Hurrying off of the train, a girl gets helped by a handsome prince who tells her to go ahead. Once outside, the girls both flush and sigh. Other girls on the train speak about the princely guy's good looks, their hearts fluttering all the while, until they notice their prince is wearing a skirt. Yoi Takaguchi was receiving another confession at school. She apologized, not really being into this sort of thing, but somehow left with another confession gift. In the ladies' locker room, Nobara and Kotobuki teased Yoi for the usual. Nothing's changed. Even in high school, Yoi failed to reject a gift as per usual. A tall, slender physique, a slightly low-pitched voice, a masculine face inherited from her parents. First year, high school. Yoi was definitely a girl, but everyone called her Prince. The upperclassmen teased her with that moniker. Koto could see why. Yoi was way more appealing than the guys here. During last year's field festival, a girl fell down, and she carried her all the way to the finish line, coming in first place. She was so cool, like a hero from a shojo manga. Wait, shojo? Make sure you like and subscribe for more content like that. Hearing some girls talk about how their faces got red around Yoi, she decided to take a detour. She'd see some female students drop something outside, and trying to hand it back, she dazzled in their eyes like always. People seemed to take Yoi more for a hero or prince than a princess. It couldn't be helped, looking the way she did. Clang! Footstep off a railing above. White hair, green eyes, gold hoop earrings. The boy landed in front of her, and she stumbled back. He apologized. He didn't see her there before the jump. He'd then lift her face and gently utter, "You're really beautiful." "Oh, you're a dude?" And she didn't take that well, telling him out of the way. For some reason, the boy felt like he's seen her from somewhere. During fourth period study hall, female classmates talked of how the prince was lost in thought. Her friends, meanwhile, could tell she was pissed. Asking if she was a dude right to her face was a little much. They noticed some girls pointing out the window, fussing about the other prince. Rumor has it, his dad was a multimillionaire and already in charge of 2 or 3 companies. Also, the number of girls he's brought to tears is easily in the triple digits. Yoi couldn't believe that. Glancing out the window, she'd be surprised it was the boy from earlier. He asked if her butt was okay. Ooh, things were getting spicy. The other girls wanted to know how she knew Ichimura. He was indeed the other prince. Friends of Kohaku Ichimura would ask if he knew her. She was famous after all. He was shocked, finding out she wasn't just some super beautiful dude. He felt bad now. At the convenience store that evening, Yoi sighed. She didn't usually talk to others in class, so that took her by surprise. The girls were just glad the two of them bumped into each other by accident. They'd lose both their princes if they somehow got together. To cope with the fact the other girls in her class didn't even see her as a girl, she decided to get some choco onpon, but overheard a guy hitting on and hassling the store clerk. She'd cut in to tell the guy he was bothering her. The guy grabbed Yoi's shirt, telling her to mind her business. But Ichimura was recording the whole thing, saying, "Nice cheesy line." His idea was to threaten to post the footage with the caption, "Drunk gets called out for harassing a woman and goes crazy." The man would come at him next, but Ichimura would grip his face, telling him to beat it. He tossed the guy away like fodder to talk to Yoi. Not expecting a sneak attack from behind, Yoi would deflect it, telling the man it was cowardly to attack someone from the back. Her dazzlingness radiated even here, and it made Ichimura chuckle. The manager barged in from the back, trying to figure out what was going on, and Ichimura took Yoi's hand, leading her out. Sitting on some swing sets together, he told Yoi her moves were amazing. She apparently knew a little karate. Ichimura felt he understood the girls now. Back there, Yoi really looked like a prince. Yoi looked away. It's not like she wanted to be a prince. She considered herself to be perfectly normal, but everywhere she went, it's prince this and hero that. She was always put on a pedestal. She wondered why she was telling him this. He replied, "So what if you're a prince? Not all girls needed to be demure." He'd tell her the things she did made his heart flutter a lot. She gave him a simple thank you, and he laughed. He thought she was so intriguing. She was this beautiful and never been treated like a princess before? She told him of course not. In his mind, the guys around had horrible taste. She couldn't tell if he was messing around or being serious. He suddenly got in front of her and asked if she wanted a princess carry, and picked her up with no hesitation. She squealed. She wasn't prepared for this, and he asked how she liked it, if she felt like a heroine now. He was just joking, but looking back at her, her face was red. She shoved her way off and told him it was time to go home, running away as fast as she could. She thought this was wrong. She wasn't the one who got swept off her feet if she fell down on field day, not the one who gave chocolate on Valentine's Day. A tall, slender physique, a slightly low-pitched voice, a masculine face inherited from her parents. She knew better than anyone that she wasn't fit to be a heroine. That's why she couldn't get her hopes up. She told herself she was okay, just surprised. This was the first time something like that happened to her. But why couldn't she calm down? Ichimura stared where she left off, as if he had an epiphany. He thought that interaction was really nice. After sleeping on it, Yoi started to feel super embarrassed about yesterday. She thought she was being way too self-conscious. She's never shown that side of herself to anyone before. Ichimura saw her from down the steps and asked what happened. She asked if he really wanted to be seen with her, considering everyone called him Prince. People might take it the wrong way. He told her he was fine. Let them. He made it clear he was interested in her. She was taken aback, wondering if this was some kind of prank, like someone had to be hiding and filming them. He tried to assure her not, but how he felt was hard to put in words for him. It was different from love. Then it clicked. The feeling was something like, I want to watch you forever. The same feeling when you want to keep looking at something that's beautiful. He didn't want to take his eyes off of her for even a split second. She thought that's something a stalker would say. Either way, he'd ask her out for lunch today. She denied him. She hadn't had much of a relationship with men her whole life. Most guys rejected the idea because she was more handsome than them. She couldn't understand what was up with Ichimura. She couldn't imagine someone called a prince would be really interested in her anyways. And bet he said charming things to women all the time. With it hitting lunch break though, the girls started squealing as he entered the classroom. They couldn't believe he was calling for Yoi-chan, and watched as Yoi shoved him out, trying to use what excuses she could for them possibly knowing each other. They ended up in the old school building. Ichimura came here with his buddies all the time. After Yoi unpacked her lunch, she was surprised he sat so close to her. She glanced at his long, beautiful fingers, his well-balanced face. Was that why he was called the prince? He took notice of her pouring out curry, and that's when she revealed her family ran a curry restaurant. Ichimura was impressed. Yoi didn't want the word getting out though, or she might get a weird nickname like the Curry Prince. Ichimura promised not to laugh, but he ended up laughing anyway. He liked that she ran a curry place though. He thought it was cute. She asked that he stop teasing her because she didn't know how to respond, and he tugged at her tie. He liked that she got flustered. It was great. There was something about her that kept him at the edge of his seat, wanting more. What face was she going to make next? Show me more, he said. Sentaro would come into the old classroom, looking for Ichimura. Yoi quickly covered herself behind the curtains. One of the stupidest hiding spots. Sentaro then mentioned that Ichimura had plans to hang out with a cute girl named Kikukawa, but he left her on red, which was why he came looking for her. Hearing this, Yoi was pissed. She told Ichimura to never pull this kind of thing on her again, and then took her leave. He was a prince after all. Of course he was popular with everyone. She knew he was calling all the girls cute. No way was she getting fooled by those cheap words. While taking orders at her family's restaurant, some girls asked Yoi if she was a girl. They thought she was always being told how handsome she was. Among all those who called Yoi handsome, Ichimura was the only one who called her cute. Even though he was probably saying it to everyone, it was still a first for her. To be called cute by a boy? She thought she'd never hear those words towards her. And as fate would have it, Ichimaro and Sentaro walked in. She wondered why he was here. Was he actually stalking her? However, Ichimaro came to return her food flask. Since he was already here, he decided to order some curry. Yoi assumed he was telling everyone about her family's curry place, but Sentaro already figured that out when he saw the logo on her flask. Apparently, he was a huge curry fanatic. Yoi's dad teasingly asked which one of them was her boyfriend. The only men he'd ever seen her speak to were him and their patrons. So, he was relieved to see her actually talking to some boys her own age. She noticed Ichimaro really seemed to enjoy his food while eating. Then, she caught herself staring again. When they were done eating, Sentaro paid for the food and went home. Meanwhile, Ichimaru was dozing off at the table. He was so stuffed. He then asked Yoi when she got off work, because he wanted to walk her home. But she couldn't just leave work like that. However, her dad, being the greatest wingman, allowed her to clock out for the day. She just needed to be home by 9. Walking together, Yoi asked Ichimaru how his hangout went. He told her he passed on it for no particular reason, and he felt it was more important to return her flask. She argued that he could have returned it any other time, letting him know it wasn't good to break a promise he made to a woman over something like that. He chuckled, thinking she was such a prince as always. He apologized properly for what happened during lunch today. She herself wasn't angry because she was bothered, but didn't know how to properly put it into words. Out of nowhere, a wave of rain began pouring heavily. They'd run over to Ichimura's house, where he gave her some clothes to change into. This is way too convenient. She asked exactly what this house was, and he answered that his grandfather was the president of a company, good looks and rich. Still, Yoi thought he didn't have that kind of presence. When they ate lunch, he only had a normal bread roll. When she was done changing, she came out dazzling as always. Even in his old clothes, it looked so naturally good on her. He liked that about her. Trying to get close, she took a defensive stance, stopping him. Then, he left to make some tea. Staring at his house, she thought it was quite incredible. So, this was what people meant when they called him a prince. Ichimaru thought it was stupid and dumb that they called him that, just because his family was rich. He didn't like the unwanted attention it brought. That was why at school, he tried to keep it on the down low. The upperclassman he declined today was the exact type. The whole promise was something she had decided for him. Seeing how things really were, Yoi apologized for scolding him without realizing the full situation. He was just as sorry though, thinking he was already putting her in a tough spot. But she let him know that she wasn't used to interacting with men. Not wanting him to find that out, she ended up sounding cold. It was the first time a man had ever approached her like that. So she was unsure about how to handle it. He would hold her fingers, get closer, and ask, "You okay with this?" His charm left her stunned. The moment would be interrupted by Yoi's phone ringing out. She then saw the time. It was too late. She needed to get back home. And so, Ichimaru offered to walk her back. She promised not to tell anyone about his home. But he didn't mind. They usually rented a house somewhere else as a decoy. Though it was a condo registered under his grandfather's name. He didn't mind telling her all this. Even if she wanted to kill him, he'd let it happen. Thinking that the last thing he'd get to see was something beautiful. She felt he was laying it on a bit thick. Then he told her, "Nah, I was just kidding." He said to call him out or he'd start sounding really crazy. After he walked her halfway through, Yoi was okay with going the rest on her own. He'd properly introduce himself, since she was still calling him senpai. Previously, he said his feelings for her were different from love. But he took that back, saying it felt pretty close. Yoi stood there, dazed. Just when she thought she'd figured him out, he slipped through her fingers and became something else. He was like the reflection of the moon on the water. His name played back in her mind. In spite of herself, she started thinking, that's a nice name. The next day, Yoi's friends were bent on finding out what was going on between her and Ichimura. She had no choice but to spill it all out. Yoi told them that he mostly followed her around, and they thought it was amazing. The orthodox prince and the unconventional assertive prince. Nobata's BL fantasies were all coming together. Oh no, she's like my viewers. Koto felt someone assertive was better for Yoi, considering Ichimura was indifferent towards other girls. Maybe this was fate. Yoi's image of him had changed a lot from her first impression. She was starting to understand that he wasn't all bad. Still, saying it was fate felt like jumping the gun. Plus, she wasn't sure how serious he was. While Ichimura was getting a drink, some girls approached him, talking about how he stood up Kikukawa. But they didn't really care about that. They only saw this as a chance to ask him to hang out with them. But he declined. So, they tried making fun of him for being interested in Yoi, who looked like a guy at first glance. He shot back by letting them know they looked pretty ugly. Oh, that's what you get. His friends thought he was harsh towards the girls, but he felt he was only telling the truth. Shun asked why he was so interested in Yoi, and Sentaro was eager to know as well. She was the total opposite of girls he usually dated. On the other hand, Ichimaru wondered why everyone else wasn't interested. First of all, she looked princely, but was still a girl. That alone made him super curious. Like, how did she usually act or behave when talking to a guy? Or what would it be like if she took off her clothes? Shun would have to stop him from going on his rant, and told him, "Come on, man. That's just you being horny." Ichimaru decided to skip class. It didn't make sense to him how no one else was curious about Yoi. For someone that beautiful, anyone would stop and stare for sure. He questioned how a desire to know more about it was impure. Wasn't it natural? Feeling the chills, Yoi headed over to the nurse's office. She's had a slight fever since the morning, probably from getting soaked in the rain. Opening the door, she saw Ichimaru and slammed the door shut. She didn't really want to deal with him right now, but the fever wasn't letting her hold the door. He'd give her a glass of water, telling her she didn't need to be a prince in front of him. Still, she didn't want him worrying about her. He went to get the teacher, while she went to lie down for a bit. Shortly after, he came lying next to her, since he couldn't find anyone. Feeling she needed warmth, he asked her to get closer, but she refused. So, he decided to go closer, pulling her in and patting her head. Ichimaru wanted her to rely on him a little. He wasn't that desperate. With no strength in her, Yoi just accepted her fate. She noticed his body was warm, feeling like she was hugging a huge, fluffy cat. They ended up oversleeping, but at least her fever was down. When Ichimaru left to get his things, she noticed a letter on her bag. It was from Koto and Nobara. They'd come to check on her, and seeing the whole thing, they expected some juicy details tomorrow. Walking back, Ichimaru suggested they grab something to eat, but Yoi wanted nothing more than to just go home. He'd tell her she was comfortable to sleep with. Sounding like a creep, it made her jolt back. But he argued that finding someone comfy to sleep with was how one found their soulmate. She asked if such a thing really existed and how he would confirm it. So, he asked her out. To experiment, of course. To his surprise, she agreed. To like this video and subscribe to my channel. What? Were you expecting me to give you a reason to convince you? You see the videos, you see the channel. I don't have to convince anybody. Just subscribe already. Contrary to what Yoi expected, Ichimaru seemed interested. He asked how far she was willing to take it with a serious quizzicalness. Holding hands? Kissing? Sex? She told him, of course, sexual activities were off limits. But he felt if they didn't do anything, then the experiment wouldn't mean much. Only then did she realize she suggested something she wasn't ready for. So, she asked for some time to think about it and ran off. Ichimura couldn't believe a person was getting red from the word sex these days. I'm gonna be honest, I was raised differently, and I'm much more of a prude. Talking about topics like that with a person I'm just getting acquainted with is a little much for me. What about you guys? Gloom consumed her. Yoi was in a real pickle now. Even her friends wondered how in the world something like this happened. She really thought Ichimura was kidding. It was probably the frustration that made her bring up the experiment. It always seemed she ended up playing directly into his hands before she realized it. So, she wanted to see how he would react, to see him flustered for just a moment. Now, she was regretting agreeing to it without thinking it through. I never imagined that I'd actually end up dating him, she said with a girly expression. Her friends didn't see anything wrong with casual dating. In Nobata's words, it was meant to be. As she was getting a bad feeling, the girl squealed with Ichimura showing up by the window, looking for Yoi. And he was even here with his friends. Whispers filled the air. The girls wondered if something was going on between them. All this made Yoi fed up. Outside, she told them to stop coming to her classroom because the other girls kept staring at her. It also didn't help that Sentaro and Shun tagged along. As if three wasn't a crowd, Nobata and Koto were hiding behind Yoi as well. Ichimura walked up to them, and with just a touch, they were steaming from their heads. That's why he needed to memorize their names, though. He would then ask Yoi about their date plans, and all the friends got excited. After giving it some thought, she came up with a contract. They were to adhere to the following conditions. 1. They would establish a romantic relationship on an experimental basis for approximately 2 weeks to a month. 2. They were to keep their romantic relationship concealed and not to disclose it to any third party. And 3. He was not to engage in any physical contact with her, including hugging, kissing, or any sexual conduct. However, this didn't apply to things such as accidentally touching someone's hand. Furthermore, if either of them developed romantic feelings for a separate third party, they were allowed to immediately terminate the contract. To him, this didn't sound so bad. He actually thought she'd call the whole thing off. And although she had considered it, Yoi hated giving up on something without seeing it through. Ichimura didn't mind. After all, he was allowed to date a prince. He promised to do his best not to get cut off during the cooling period. As they shook on it, it was obvious a fierce battle was about to start. With the bell ringing, it was time to head back to class. But Ichimura would bring Yoi back to him, telling the others to go on ahead because he wanted to discuss something with her. But that was just an excuse to get some alone time with her. She was his now, meaning he could keep her all to himself. He was clearly ignoring the contract condition Rule 3. about physical contact. His arm wrapped around her shoulder, but he called it platonic touch. She couldn't help but feel he was quite possessive. It was far from his image. Taking his arm off, he realized this was a first for him, the first time he ever really wanted something. After they exchanged contacts, he asked if they could walk home together. Her lips quivered. Clutching her shirt, she declined, telling him it'd be bad if word got out. Back home, it all replayed in her head. She couldn't believe words like that rolled off his tongue so easily. On the other hand, she was flustered at the thought of dating a man. He was basically her first boyfriend. Did she really make the right choice choosing him? Her mind was stressed just thinking about it. She'd send him a text. This was her first time texting a boy. This was the message. Good evening. This is my first time messaging. It's Takeguchi. After thinking a little on what we spoke about today, I would like to propose the following. How about a date next Saturday or Sunday? Ichimura was caught off guard. The next day, Yoi's beauty had everyone staring at the bus stop. They'd never seen such a hot and handsome guy. She arrived 30 minutes earlier than planned, and it got her wondering if it was okay to ask him out. Was she being too eager? Still, this was the only way to find out if they were compatible. More importantly, what bothered her the most was Ichimura's dismissive reply. She thought he'd be more forward. Ichimura would then show up in casual clothes. Walking up to her, she started to get really nervous. He asked why she was wearing her uniform on a date, and she answered she had something to do in school before showing up. But actually, she just couldn't decide what to wear. Since they both didn't have plans to visit anywhere, Ichimura decided they should go check out clothes. He really wanted to see her in all kinds of outfits. Even in new clothes, Yori's radiant beauty left the store clerks stunned. Likewise, Ichimura's good looks went easily with his outfit as well. So good that it left her a bit flush. She couldn't even look him in the face. Once she turned around, he snatched off her glasses. Wearing it, he showed how good they looked together, and then apologized for touching her shoulder. Normally, girls would try on cuter clothes, but right now, Yoi's clothes didn't look like what you'd wear on a date. Plus, the shoulder he touched felt so tense, and she didn't know why. Heading out, they went back to their regular clothes without buying anything. Her attention was caught by a confectionery close to them. Ichimura was already getting hungry, so they decided to take a look. After getting treats, they sat to eat together. One bite, and the sweetness got them excited. She loved how the red bean paste and the daifuku was the smooth kind. Ichimura, however, didn't really see the difference between the clumpy and smooth, but she let him know they were totally different. The clumpy kind wasn't bad, but when eating mochi and such, she felt a bit let down when it wasn't the smooth kind. To her, the texture and mouthfeel were completely different. Yoi was a real fan of sweet things of all kind. Ichimura found it funny that she was so unaware of her sweet tooth, and his bright smile captivated her. She noticed how the corners of his mouth lifted up so beautifully. When he smiled, he looked so kind, like a completely different person, and she felt like she had really learned something about him for the first time. With their remaining time, they headed over to an amusement park. Ichimura really liked them at night, just before they closed. He called it beautiful, but vaguely melancholic. He also liked fireworks in the winter. Yoi knew the feeling, just like how she loved ice cream in the winter too. Ichimura laughed, seeing how much she loved sweets, and told her that we often know ourselves the least. Today, Yoi thought he seemed less of senpai and more kohaku Ichimura. She asked if he usually went on dates like these. To her surprise, this was a first for him. He usually just went wherever the other person wanted to go and went along with their vibe. Ichimura didn't have any desire for any particular thing with anyone. Even the clothing store was a first for him. However, today was super fun, and he thanked her for that. Staring at him, his profile, illuminated from the lights, was so beautiful. Yoi was unable to take her eyes away. Considering the way he messaged her earlier, she thought she was being a bother. His reply was quite dismissive, but actually, he didn't mean it that way. He told her that he usually left messages like that on red, but he wanted to reply to hers immediately, even if it wasn't much. Yoi was flustered. In that moment, his message completely felt different to her. They'd spend the rest of the ride in awkward silence. On their way home, Yoi thought going home now seemed like a waste. Ichimura decided they should grab something to eat. While thinking of where to go, they heard some guys talking about a gyoza place. So, they decided to follow them. Suddenly, Yoi got a text from her phone. They were short-staffed at the restaurant and needed her to come in. Unfortunately, they'd have to call it a night. Ichimura walked her to the restaurant, and just as she invited him to eat, Yoi's dad walked out. He teased her, suspecting they were going out. Yoi couldn't even deny it. Before Ichimura confirmed immediately, her dad asked what he liked about her, making her feel totally embarrassed. Ichimura said it was her looks. Since they were going out, he had the right to look at her. all he wanted. And getting pissed off by his words, Yoi bid him goodbye and slammed the door shut. Yoi's friends laughed about the whole thing when she told them she was having fun, and his words ruined the whole thing in that instant. They were shocked to hear that Yoi was actually having fun with Ichimura. Fumbling her words, she still couldn't deny it, but she couldn't tell if this was love or not. On her way to class, a hand reached out and pulled her into a classroom. It was none other than Ichimura. He asked why she was ignoring him, wondering if he upset her again. She mentioned the fact that he told her dad about them dating. Plus, there might be a chance they weren't really dating. She told him that when it came to love, you couldn't get into a relationship unless at least one person liked the other. All he ever told her was, "I want to watch you forever," or "show me what kind of face you'll make next." She'd ask him if that was actually love. Ichimura reminded Yoi that this experiment was to figure it all out. He just wanted them to chill and take things easy. He then pulled out a pack of chocolate, showing it to her. But it only made her more upset, especially since he hadn't even said he liked her. She pushed him away and ran out of the classroom. But all he could think about was how priceless her face was. In the bathroom, Yoi calmed herself, trying to remember when this all started. It wasn't during yesterday's date, or even in the nurse's office. It was before then. Slowly, she realized she wanted him to fall in love with her. In his room with his friends, Shun noticed the pack of chocolate in Ichimura's bag, which he had planned to give to Yoi. When he asked why Ichimura was so into her, he'd reply, "Her face." He didn't know why, but he always wanted to look at her. And when he did, he couldn't take his eyes away. Even if Yoi were a man, he'd probably feel the same way. Gay. He thought he was like a Yoi enthusiast or a fanatic. Thinking about it, Sentaro figured this was what people called love at first sight. And an intense case at that. If Ichimura couldn't take his eyes off of her, it had to be love. However, he didn't see it that way. But either way, this was different from the way he had treated other girls he dated. Sentaro assumed he was really in love this time, but this prince was clueless. On the other hand, Yoi was drowning in embarrassment as she recalled what she told Ichimura before running out. She wanted to find a hole and crawl into it. It's not like that's what she wanted to say to him. She wondered why she couldn't be a little more honest, and decided to properly apologize when she next saw him. At school the next day, he didn't even show up once in her class. The tables had flipped, so she was forced to go to Ichimura's class. As he eagerly approached her, Yoi would fumble her words. With the people whispering all around them, he decided to take her somewhere private. She then brought up what she said yesterday, but he wasn't really bothered by it at all. Yoi was disappointed. It was strange that she was hit so hard by his words. He then asked if she was interested in finding a place to try out some gyoza. They weren't able to try it out last time, and it had been on his mind since then. Of course, she definitely wanted to go, so they agreed to meet up by 7 p.m. Yoi was so happy, but this emotional roller coaster had her confused. Getting to the restaurant, they got a table for two. She wasn't used to coming to places like this, which made her a bit nervous. However, Ichimura was used to this, and you couldn't blame him. He didn't cook at all. He doesn't even know how to boil rice. How the hell was he surviving on his own? Before Yoi could ask about that, Sentaro and Shun suddenly showed up. They wanted to join in, but Ichimura refused. No way they were going to ruin this moment. Hearing him say things like this made Yoi flustered. However, Sentaro and Shun ended up sitting across them. When their food came, the two boys kept staring at them, making Yoi uncomfortable. Ichimura would sit beside her to block their view, and he told his friends to stop staring. However, this only made her more nervous. Now, they were sitting so close. She wasn't used to sitting this close to a man. Ichimura told her he was nervous as well, but she wouldn't let herself be fooled. He touched her hand, but she quickly pulled away when some girls entered, talking about how two boys were flirting. On the way home, he suggested they visit another gyoza restaurant next time. Yoi, on the other hand, was lost in thought. She couldn't remember how the food tasted, and the way Ichimura was acting so normal bothered her, even after their hands touched back then. Maybe she was being overly self-conscious. He'd suddenly stop in his tracks, telling her he'd been thinking about what she mentioned yesterday. He honestly didn't know the answer to it yet, and he apologized. Yet again, his words hit her hard. So he asked if they could try something out. Softly, he held her face in his arms. They'd stare at each other's eyes as their lips grew closer. He'd stop just before the deed was done, asking if she was okay with this. She'd then push him off. That's when he realized his breath must have been stinking of gyoza. That aside, Yoi couldn't believe she was actually about to go through with it. After giving her a piece of gum, He told her that he didn't want to destroy what they had going on, so he asked for permission to hold her hand. She reminded him that they agreed not to do stuff like that. He quipped back that she was about ready to kiss him, but she argued she just froze in place being caught off guard, and found it strange for someone to offer their hands to see if they liked another person or not. Ichimura had never experienced a platonic relationship like this before. All these tests were necessary for him to figure out his feelings. Considering all the things he tried, Yoi couldn't believe he considered all this platonic. Still, he offered his hand. She feared people would mistake them for two guys again, but he'd grab, letting her know he couldn't care less about that. In the end, they ended up holding hands while walking back. She noticed his hand was hot, and wondered if his was the only hand that was hot. Back home, Yoi soaked herself in the bath, staring at her hand. At first, she couldn't stand Ichimura, but now, she was fine with him. He wasn't a bad person, and it wasn't like she didn't like him. Despite being uncertain about her feelings, one thing was clear. She found herself wanting him to really fall in love with her, and not the "you're beautiful" or "I want you" type. Yoi couldn't help but feel it was such a selfish way of thinking. After getting out of the tub, she apologized to her sister for taking so much time. Then, she sat on the couch, staring at her phone, and wondering if she should text Ichimura or not. She'd be startled when her sister assumed she had a boyfriend. However, Yoi said they weren't going out. Yet. Ooh. Seems like someone was already hoping for it. No wonder her expressions had become a little more gentle. Her sister was eager to know about this new guy. Yoi mentioned that he was 1 year ahead of her, and also had the nickname the Prince. Seeing that someone had the same nickname as Yoi, she figured someone more prince-like than her would be a perfect match. At the same time, Ichimura stared at their texts. Thinking about the kiss they almost had, the only reason he didn't go through with it was that he wouldn't be able to stop if he did. In school, they'd run into each other, but Yoi couldn't look at him properly, so she quickly left, making an excuse that she had something to do in the staff room. She'd spend the day trying her best to avoid him. Eventually, Ichimura caught her with Kabe-dan. He was just joking though. After what happened yesterday, she didn't have the courage to look him in the eyes. As he picked off a strand of her hair, she slapped his hand away. Maybe she was scared he'd try to kiss again, but he promised not to do that, or anything she didn't like. Now she was questioning if she really didn't like it. As he tried leaving, she pulled him back, trying to explain herself. But even with her glowing charm, she couldn't find the words she needed. Hearing her friends call her, she took her leave and met up with them. For a brief moment, Yoi had her hopes up somewhere deep in her heart. All she did was hold Ichimura back from going. He didn't understand why his heart was racing out of control. It felt like some kind of emotion that the eye couldn't see was gradually changing her. Wow, guys. Are the two learning what love is? I'm sure they are. Subscribe to keep up with the future parts. But for now, watch this next video. It's me, ComfyTea. I'll see you all in the next one.